The night on the alien world was calm, almost too calm. A soft blue mist floated across the quiet forest, and glowing plants shined gently like tiny stars on the ground. Every creature was asleep. Every sound was peaceful. But everything changed. In one sudden moment, high above the trees, the sky ripped open with a burning streak of fire. A ship metallic, bright, and massive cut through the atmosphere like a wounded beast. Flames wrapped around it as it fell. The sound was so loud that it shook the ground and echoed through the forest like thunder. Birds flew into the sky. Animals ran to their hiding places. Trees trembled as if the world itself was afraid. In a small village made of woven roots and glowing stones, an alien mother named Lyra jumped from her sleeping mat. Her heart raced. She knew that sound. Everyone in her village knew it. It was a human ship. Her hands shook as she grabbed her young daughter Nuli, who was still half asleep but wide-eyed from the blast. "Mama, what was that?" Nuli asked. In her tiny, trembling voice, Lyra did not answer. She could barely breathe. Humans. Their name alone created fear in every alien heart. Old stories said humans were hunters, strong and dangerous. They were said to take aliens away, never to return. Lyra did not know if the stories were true, but fear did not need truth. It only needed memory. A second explosion lit up the sky. Trees near the crash site burst into flames for a moment before the rain of glowing embers faded. "We need to hide," Lyra whispered, pulling Nuli close. She hurried through the village as other aliens came out of their homes, confused and frightened. Some cried. Some shouted warnings. Some ran. Lyra's legs moved fast as she guided Nuli toward the giant roots of an ancient tree at the forest's edge. The roots twisted into natural tunnels perfect for hiding. The forest had protected their people for generations. It would protect them now. "Stay close," Lyra said, her voice shaking. She pushed Nuli behind her and pressed their backs against the cool, rough bark. Then came the heavy sound. Thud. 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 Footsteps. Human footsteps. They were slow, heavy, and uneven, like someone injured. Or like someone dangerous trying to walk carefully. Lyra held Nuli tighter. She silently prayed the human would pass without finding them. But the footsteps came closer. Every step made her flinch. Every breath felt louder than it should. Through the roots, Lyra saw movement, a human figure moving through the glowing mist. He was tall, limping, and covered in dirt and smoke. His clothes were torn. His face looked tired and scared. He held a small light in one hand, shining it weakly around as if searching for something or someone. Nuli's eyes went wide. "Mama, he looks hurt." Lyra pulled her daughter back quickly. "Don't look, don't move." She wanted to believe the human was weak. She wanted to believe he could not hurt them. But legends told a different story. Humans could be hurt and still dangerous. They could bleed and still fight. The human coughed hard and dropped to one knee. He looked exhausted, almost defeated. Slowly, he took off his backpack and placed something. On the ground, food packets, water, tools. Then he lifted his hands in the air, palms open, a sign of peace. But why peace? Why now? Was it a trick? Was he pretending? Lyra's heart pounded. She felt torn between fear and confusion. The human looked nothing like the monsters from the old stories. He looked lost. He looked broken. He looked harmless. But fear does not leave easily. The forest stayed silent. The mist moved. The human sat on the ground, breathing softly, unaware that someone was watching him with both fear and curiosity. And in that silence, the real story began. For a long moment, nothing moved. The forest was quiet again, but it was not the calm silence from before. This silence was heavy, filled with fear, uncertainty, and a strange kind of waiting. Lyra kept her daughter close as she watched the human from behind the thick roots. The dim light from his small lamp flickered across his face. His expression was tired, worried, almost desperate. He wiped the sweat and dirt from his forehead and looked around like someone lost in a foreign world, but Lyra did not trust any of it. Fear lived deep inside her bones, planted long ago by the stories of her elders. Those stories said humans were strong, humans were fast. Humans captured alien kind and used them for experiments. Humans smiled only to trick their prey. And now, a human was sitting only a few steps away. Newly, however, saw something else. "Mama," she whispered softly. "He is not scary. He looks lonely." Lyra shivered. How could her daughter say such a thing? How could a child feel no fear in front of something so dangerous? She pressed a hand over Newly's mouth gently. "Hush. The human will hear you." But Newly only blinked, her soft purple eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She looked at the human again, carefully studying him the way young minds do, without fear, without history, without old stories controlling their thoughts. The human slowly opened one of his food packets and sniffed it. He didn't eat it. Instead, he placed it on the ground in front of him, almost carefully, as if showing that he meant no harm. Lyra frowned. What was he doing? Why waste food? The human then took his water bottle, poured a little into his hand, and let it drip gently onto the ground. A gesture of sharing, a ritual, a message? Lyra didn't know. All she knew was that every move he made was confusing her fear. Newly tugged her mother's arm. "Mama, look. He's giving food to the forest. Maybe he wants to be friends?" Lyra's breath caught. Friends with a human? Impossible. Her heart thudded loudly as memories flooded her mind. Stories of humans hunting alien children. Stories of humans destroying small villages. Stories of humans laughing while others cried. But were those stories real? Or were they warnings made bigger with time? Lyra didn't know anymore. The human tried to stand again. His legs shook. He winced in pain. For a moment, he almost fell face first into the dirt. He grabbed the tree for support, breathing hard. Newly gasped softly. "He is hurt, Mama." Lyra wanted to push her daughter deeper into the hiding roots. But instead, a strange ache formed in her chest. She could see the human's pain clearly. Even through fear, she could recognize suffering. The human took off his backpack again and pulled out a small device. It made a soft beeping sound and projected a faint blue light. He tapped it, and a tiny hologram flickered into existence of a map. The human looked confused. He pointed left, then right, then sighed when the map refused to update. He was lost. Completely lost. Newly whispered, "Maybe he crashed by. Mistake. Maybe he didn't want to come here." Lyra pressed her lips together. That idea scared her more than anything. Because if he crashed by mistake, then he was not a hunter, not a monster, not the enemy the stories warned of. He was just alone. A wave of guilt pushed against her fear. She didn't know this human. She didn't know his intentions. But she knew one thing. He wasn't acting like the monsters in the tales. The human suddenly shivered. The night breeze was cold. He wrapped his arms around himself and leaned against a tree, closing his eyes for just a moment. Newly small hand slipped into Lyra's. "Mama, why are you scared?" Lyra didn't answer. How could she explain that fear does not always need a reason? That sometimes fear is older than truth? That sometimes fear is passed down generation by generation, until it becomes part of who you are? She looked at the human again. He sat quietly, head lowered, breathing softly. In that moment, Lyra felt two things fighting inside her, fear and curiosity. And for the first time in her life, curiosity did not feel like the enemy. The night grew colder, and the glowing mist around the forest thickened like a soft blue fog. Lyra kept watching the human from her hiding place, unable to look away. Still wounded, still confused, he sat quietly, as if the darkness was pressing against him. For a long time, Nothing happened. Then something changed. The human slowly reached into his torn backpack and pulled out a small square packet. Lyra tensed, afraid it might be a weapon. But it wasn't. He ripped the packet open and took out a small dry food bar. Instead of eating it, he did something completely unexpected. He placed the food bar gently on the ground in front of him, not for himself, for others. Newly tilted her head. "Mama, he is sharing." Lyra's heart pounded. Her hands tightened around her daughter. "Don't trust it," she whispered, voice trembling. "It could be a trap." But even she knew it didn't look like a trap. The human kept his distance from the food, showing clearly that he wasn't using it as bait. He sat back with his hands visible, calm, waiting as if he hoped someone would take it as if he wanted to show he wasn't a threat. He then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small round object. Lyra watched closely, expecting danger. But the human tapped the device, and instead of a weapon, it projected a faint yellow glow, a tiny light meant to keep him warm. He placed it between himself and the food, making the spot glow like a safe place. Newly's small face softened. She whispered, "He is not dangerous, Mama. He is scared." Lyra swallowed. She didn't want to believe it, but she saw it clearly. Now the human was trembling slightly, not from fear of them, but from the cold night and exhaustion. He lifted his hands again, palms open. A universal sign of peace. A message that said, "I'm not here to hurt you. Please don't hurt me." He spoke softly to himself, his voice low and tired. Lyra couldn't understand the human words, but she understood the tone. It was the tone of someone who had lost everything: home, safety, direction, and was now hoping for a miracle. The human then did something even stranger. He reached into his bag again and pulled out a small metal box. When he opened it, soft music began to play, a gentle tune. Slow, sad, and full of longing. The sound floated through the forest and mixed with the glowing mist, creating a peaceful moment that didn't belong to fear or violence. Newly's eyes sparkled. "Mama, he is playing music for us." "For himself," Lyra corrected quickly, though her voice trembled. Humans do strange things." But even she felt the music touching her heart. No monster would play a song in the cold night. No hunter would sit openly with empty hands, offering food to the dark. The human finally stopped the music, placing the quiet device near the food like an offering. He looked around quietly, then slowly leaned back against the tree, his eyes searching the bush as if he hoped someone was listening or watching. "No, I whispered. "Mama, maybe he knows we are here." A surge of fear ran through Lyra. Had the human seen them? Was he pretending to be weak? But then the human lowered his head and sighed. A long, tired sigh. The kind of sigh someone makes when they are giving up hope. He wasn't acting. He was defeated. Exhausted. Alone. For the first time, Lyra felt something strange: sympathy. It confused her. It scared her. But she couldn't stop it. The human picked up a stick and slowly drew a small circle in the dirt. Then he drew another circle. Beside it, he pointed at one circle, then at himself. Then he pointed at the other circle. And waited. It wasn't a weapon. It was a message, a request, a question. "Are you there? Will you trust me?" Lyra held her breath as Newly leaned forward, eyes wide with curiosity. And at that moment, everything changed. The first move toward peace had been made. The human's drawing in the dirt stayed glowing faintly under the moonlight. 2 circles, one for him, one for whoever was watching. He waited with quiet patience, breathing slowly, almost as if he hoped the night itself would answer. Lyra froze. Her heart pounded so loudly she feared the human might hear it. What was he doing? Why draw shapes? Why wait like that? Newly, however, leaned forward with innocent curiosity. Her small glowing eyes studied the human's simple circles like they were a puzzle begging to be solved. Mama. He wants to talk. Her voice was soft, gentle, far braver than Lyra felt. Lyra grabbed her small arm and whispered sharply, "Don't move, Newly. He is human. You don't know what he wants." Newly turned to her, calm in a way only children could be. "But he is not scary. He could be pretending," Lyra warned. "Humans can pretend very well. That is what the stories say." Newly blinked, thinking quietly. Then she whispered back, "Stories can be wrong." The words hit Lyra harder than she expected. Stories could be wrong? No one in her village had ever said that. No one had dared. The human looked at the ground. Again, gently tapping the second circle. He wasn't impatient. He wasn't angry. He just looked. Hopeful. He picked up a small glowing berry from the ground, the kind the forest produced at night. Carefully, he rolled it toward the second circle, toward the unseen watcher. The bright berry stopped almost exactly where he wanted it. It shimmered like a tiny star between them. Newly's breath caught in wonder. Lyra's breath caught in fear. The human then did something even more unexpected. He placed his hand on his chest and tapped twice. Slowly, softly. Then he pointed at the circle again. A name, a greeting, a message, a promise. He wanted communication. Newly whispered excitedly, "He wants to tell us who he is." Newly, "No," Lyra whispered. "We cannot answer. We must not answer. We cannot trust." But before she could finish, Newly stepped forward, not out of hiding, not into danger. Just one small step closer to the roots where she could see the human a little more clearly. Her glowing eyes reflected the tiny yellow light lying beside the human's food. "Mama," she whispered, her voice trembling not with fear but with emotion. "You are crying." Lyra touched her own cheek in surprise. A warm tear had escaped without her noticing. She did not understand why. Fear? Confusion? Or something else growing slowly inside her? Newly placed her small hand on her mother's cheek. "Don't cry. Mama," she whispered gently. "The human, he really likes you." Lyra gasped softly. "Hush, child. You don't know." But the human lifted his head at the sound of Newly's whisper. He didn't jump. He didn't panic. He didn't reach for a weapon. He simply turned his head slowly, as if afraid of frightening whoever had spoken. His eyes softened, warm and gentle. He raised his empty hands again and smiled, not a wide smile, not a scary one, but a tired, grateful, human smile. A smile that said, "I hear you. I won't hurt you." Then, very softly, he whispered something in his own language. The words were unfamiliar, but the tone was unmistakable. Thankfulness, relief, kindness. He wasn't reacting to a threat. He was reacting to a voice that sounded like hope. Lyra felt her fear loosen. Just a little, like a knot slowly untangling. Newly's bravery, the human's gentleness. The quiet forest watching them both. It all felt unreal, like a dream where two worlds touched for the first time. Newly stepped a little closer to the entrance of the roots. The human remained still, making no sudden movement. He placed his hand on the ground, palm open, near the berry. A silent invitation, not to come closer, not to trust blindly, just to know he meant no harm. And in that moment, something shifted between them. Fear didn't vanish. Fear never vanished so quickly, but it changed. It became something lighter, something softer. A question instead of a warning, a possibility instead of a threat. The human waited. Newly watched. Lyra's heart fought between fear and hope. And the night held its breath for what would happen next. The forest was quieter than ever. The glowing mist floated softly around the human, the berry, and the two circles he had drawn in the dirt. Newly's soft whisper still hung in the air, and Lyra's heart was beating fast, torn between danger and something she didn't know how to name. The human didn't move. He stayed exactly as he was, calm, quiet, hands open on the ground. His eyes were gentle, warm, almost relieved that someone had spoken. He waited, not with the patience of a hunter, but with the fragile hope of someone who had nothing else left. For the first time, Lyra truly looked at him, not as a monster, not as a threat, not as the creature from old stories, but as a living being, hurt, tired, lost, and strangely kind. Newly looked up at her mother with innocent confidence. "Mama, he is not bad. He is scared too." Lyra could deny many things, but not that. The human did look scared, not of them, but of the unknown world around him. His ship had crashed, his tools were broken, and he had no one to help him. No tribe, no family, no safety, just cold air. A quiet forest, and two aliens hiding in the shadows. The human tapped the second circle again softly. Then, with slow and careful movements, he picked up a stick and added a small line connecting the two circles. A bridge, a link, a message. "We can understand each other," Newly gasped softly. "Mama, he wants to be friends." "Friends?" Lyra whispered. The word felt strange in her mouth. She had never imagined humans could want friendship. All her life, she had believed they only wanted power. But this human, he looked like he would break if someone shouted at him. He looked like he was holding onto hope with the last thread of strength he had. Lyra watched as he placed his backpack on the ground and opened another pocket. This time, he took out a small light device. It glowed blue when he tapped it. Then, to Lyra's surprise, he turned the device toward himself and scanned his own arm. A hologram appeared, his injured arm glowing red. The human flinched as the scan revealed a deep cut that he had been hiding. He tried to apply a healing patch, but his hand shook too much. The patch fell to the ground. "No, I gasped again. "Mama, he is hurt. He really is hurt." Lyra pressed a hand to her chest. The sight of the injury cut through her fear like a blade through soft bark. She didn't want to pity him. She didn't want to care. But she couldn't help the ache inside her heart. The human tried again, weaker this time. The patch slipped from his fingers. His breathing turned heavy, and his shoulders lowered as if he finally understood he couldn't do it alone. He whispered something in his language, quiet, almost like a sad apology. Then he put the patch near the berry on the ground. An offering, a request, plea. Newly tugged Lyra's hand. "Mama, he needs help, and he trusts us." Lyra froze. The idea terrified her, but also made something deep inside her melt. Trust was not easy, especially not between enemies. Yet, the human was giving them a chance. A real chance. Newly crawled a little closer, and this time Lyra didn't stop her. Her breath shook, but she didn't pull her daughter back. Something inside her whispered, maybe kindness is stronger than fear. Newly reached forward with a tiny hand and touched the glowing berry the human had placed. The human inhaled sharply, not in fear, but in relief. His eyes softened even more, shimmering with gratitude. Then Lyra did something she never imagined she would do. She moved closer too. Just a few inches. Just enough to be seen. The human froze, but not in fear. His eyes widened with quiet amazement. Slowly, he lowered his head in a respectful gesture, thanking them without words. For the first time, Lyra felt something she had never associated with a human before: understanding. Not full trust, not full comfort, but a beginning, a new chapter between two worlds, and the forest, glowing softly around them, seemed to welcome it. The forest glowed softly around them, as if holding its breath. Lyra and Newly were now close enough for the human to see their outlines clearly. He didn't move. He didn't even blink too fast. He stayed still, like he feared a single sudden motion might break the fragile trust growing between them. For a moment, the world felt calm. Too calm. Newly gently pushed the glowing berry closer to the human, and the human smiled, soft, tired, grateful. He placed his hand on his chest again, tapping twice. then pointed at Newly with a gentle gesture of thanks. Lyra watched everything closely. Her heart didn't race like before, but fear still lingered quietly in the back of her mind. She could feel something changing between them. Something delicate, something she wasn't sure she understood yet. Just when the peace settled, sharp crack echoed through the forest. Branches snapped. Leaves rustled violently. Heavy footsteps thundered from behind the trees. Lyra's body stiffened. Newly froze mid-breath. The human's smile faded instantly. The sound was not one person, it was many. And they were moving fast. Lyra's ears twitched. She knew that rhythm, that urgency, that anger. The hunters, she whispered, her voice trembling. They were coming. Before Lyra could move, a deep voice shouted from the shadows, "Stay back! A human is here!" Bright torches burst through the mist as a group of armored alien hunters emerged from the forest. Their tall bodies, sharp armor plates, and glowing weapons made them look terrifying even to their own people. Their job was simple: protect the village and destroy threats, and nothing was considered more dangerous than a human. The hunters immediately saw him. The human, weak and injured, stumbled back in fear. He wasn't fast enough to run. He wasn't strong enough to fight. His hands shot up into the air, palms open, trembling. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. The hunters raised their spears, bright energy blades that hissed in the cold. "Night air! Stay away from our land, human!" One shouted. "No, I gasped. "No, stop, he is not bad." But the hunters didn't hear her. Or maybe they didn't care. Their eyes burned with the anger of old stories. Stories stronger than truth. Stories stronger than logic. Stories that turned fear into violence. Lyra pulled Newly back instinctively. But Newly shook her head fiercely. "No. Mama, he is our friend. He needs help." The human didn't move from where he stood. His hands shook. His breath came in quick, frightened gasps. His whole body screamed that he was terrified. But still he did not reach for a weapon. He did not fight. He simply stood there, waiting for his fate. One hunter stepped forward. "Move away, Lyra," he commanded. "We must protect the village." Lyra's heart pounded. She should obey. She should pull Newly far away. She should let the hunters end this. That was what fear said. But something else, something powerful whispered inside her heart. This human has shown kindness. This human has shown peace. This human trusted us. She could not betray that. Before she could stop herself, Lyra stepped forward and placed herself between the human and the hunters. The hunters froze, shocked. "Lyra?" One said, "What are you doing?" Lyra's hands shook, but her voice did not. She lifted her chin and said, "He is not a threat." "He is human," another growled. "They lie, they kill, move aside." "No," she said softly but firmly. The hunters raised their weapons even higher. The air crackled with energy. The key. Human swallowed, terrified, and then Newly stepped beside her mother, holding Lyra's hand tightly. Her small voice echoed through the forest. "Please don't hurt him. He likes us." The hunters stared at the child. They saw no fear in her glowing eyes, only truth. Confusion flickered across their faces. Then another hunter shouted angrily, "We cannot trust him." But before he could strike, the human did something unexpected. He stepped forward slowly, painfully, and activated his medical scanner. The blue light swept across the nearest hunter, revealing a deep injury on the alien's leg. Everyone froze. The human pointed at the wound, then at his medical patch on the ground. A silent message, "I can help you." The hunters hesitated. Lyra watched closely. Newly held her breath. The forest waited. And in that fragile moment, danger and trust stood side by side, ready to decide the fate of 3 lives, and perhaps 2 entire species. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Blue mist curled softly around the trees, the glowing plants casting gentle light on the tense group. Lyra stood firm. shielding her daughter, while the human knelt slowly on the ground, pointing again at his medical patch. His eyes met Lyra's. Full of hope, fear, and exhaustion all at once, the hunters watched him with suspicion. Their spears hovered, energy blades crackling softly in the cold night. The air felt electric, as if even the forest was unsure which side would move first. Then Nuli stepped forward, tiny but fearless. Her small hand reached for the humans. "He is not bad," she said softly, her voice carrying through the forest. "He wants to help." The hunters stared at the child, blinking. For a moment, the words from this little alien girl pierced the tension like sunlight through fog. They had never heard such honesty, such courage, and such hope in someone. So small, Lyra swallowed. She could feel the warmth of pride and fear mixed together. Her daughter was teaching everyone something that Lyra had almost forgotten, that kindness can be stronger than fear. The human, seeing Nuli's hand, slowly took it in his own. His grip was gentle, careful, as if he could break the fragile trust between them with the slightest wrong move. He then pointed at Lyra's chest, tapping twice, and gestured toward the injured hunter closest to him. Lyra's eyes widened. He was offering to heal them, not asking, not demanding. He was giving them a choice, an act of peace. A murmur ran through the hunters. Some lowered their weapons slightly, uncertain. Some exchanged glances, questioning the ancient stories that had guided their fears for generations. The human moved carefully toward the injured hunter, kneeling at a respectful distance. The alien flinched but did not strike. The human activated the medical device, and a soft blue light scanned the injury. A quiet hum filled the air as the scanner worked, healing the leg slowly but effectively. The hunter looked down, amazed. Pain faded, relief replaced fear. He slowly lowered his weapon. His eyes met the human's, then Lyra's, then Nuli's. Understanding dawned a fragile, new understanding. One by one, the other hunters relaxed. Spears lowered. Voices softened. Some took cautious steps forward, witnessing the trust and peace growing between their people and this human. Lyra exhaled slowly, the weight of fear lifting a little from her shoulders. She looked at Nuli, whose small eyes glowed with quiet triumph. The child's courage had done what words alone could. Not that the human straightened and smiled softly, exhaustion and gratitude in every line of his face. He placed a hand over his heart once more, and then pointed gently at the hunters. His gesture said clearly, "I am not your enemy." The hunters slowly nodded, hesitant but willing. Lyra felt her chest swell with hope. For the first time in history, humans and her people were not strangers or enemies. They could be allies, friends, maybe even family. Nuli stepped closer to the human and whispered softly, "Mama, see? He really likes us." Lyra smiled, tears filling her eyes. "Yes, Nuli, he really does." The human's eyes softened as he knelt, not as a conqueror or stranger, but as someone who had chosen compassion over fear. He extended his hand toward Lyra and Nulia, simple human gesture of connection. Lyra hesitated for a heartbeat, then took his hand, guiding Nuli to do the same. In that single moment, a bond was formed, fragile but real, a bond that bridged worlds, species, and centuries of fear. The forest seemed to exhale, the blue mist glowing brighter, as if celebrating this new beginning. Two species, once divided by mistrust, now shared understanding, kindness, and hope. For the first time, Lyra felt it deeply. Humanity could be more than stories of fear. Humanity could be a bridge between worlds, and as the human looked at them, with a gentle smile, and Nuli held his hand tightly, Lyra whispered softly, more to herself than anyone else, Maybe fear is not stronger than hope after all." The night remained quiet, the glowing forest embracing them all, as a new story began, one of trust, understanding, and the true power of compassion.